Another question? Yeah, all the way down in front.
Where do you draw your inspiration from, and how does it influence your work?
The question is, where do I draw my inspiration from and how does it influence my work? I get my inspiration from lots of different places. The most immediate place I get, I have to admit, is when I'm doing a project, a lot of times I'll just try to open up all the doors and windows in my brain and just kind of let it all go in. And I try not to do any design work when I'm doing that, like when, whether it's kind of spending 2 days out in California with the Guitar Hero people watching the demos of the games or playing the demos of the games, or whether it's, talking to the curators at a museum or watching talking with the architects about the New York Times building. I actually try not to think of anything then. And I just try to listen really hard and let it all come in. Because a lot of times the best inspiration you get is right there. It's sort of the problem at hand. But then sometimes you get stuck and you have to kind of come up with something else. And so that can be anywhere. I mean, I have to admit I get a lot of it more from music, I would say. Sometimes when I'm working with my designers, I'll say, this should go more like bada 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 bada, but not like bada 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 bada, and I don't know if you would appreciate getting that sort of instruction from your boss, but the people who work for me get things like that too often, I'm afraid. But I think sometimes I'll look at like the way a page looks and I'll really think about it in terms of a musical composition to a certain degree, and I always play music when I'm doing work. So I think that sort of is an inspiration a little bit. And then sometimes, just like anything else, the best thing to do is to just take a break from what you're doing and force yourself to, I take the bus in New York a lot. Even cabs are faster, but a lot of times I just like to have 10 extra minutes between things just to think. And so that can be great. So I think a lot of times, when you're creative, it's actually hard. People have come up with their own their own kind of exercises that they do in order to bring their creativity out. And the main thing is, for me at least, is just to do a lot of work. I don't think some people, they do it really well every time, but I think my batting average is like a baseball batting average. I think 1 out of 3 things I do is decent. The other 2 out of 3 things might not be so hot. So I've got to really get a lot of at-bats in order to get any hits at all, in my opinion. Not everyone's like that, but I am. Yeah, over there on the side.
How long did it take you to actually get into the design field? Like after out of college, what were you in?
The question is, how long did it take me to get into the design field after I got out of college? I've only had 2 jobs since I graduated. I worked for 10 years for a designer named Massimo Vignelli, a famous New York designer, and I started there as the lowest person in the office. I had no design responsibility whatsoever. I just, I did everything but sweep the floors and make the coffee, and sometimes I did those things too. I sort of did, and then slowly but surely I started getting some design responsibility. Slowly but surely I started demonstrating that I was good at certain things, and got more responsibility as a result of that. And by the time the 10 years were over, I was running all their graphic design operations, basically, and had, 12.5 people reporting to me. And then at Pentagram, that's the second and current job that I have. My situation is very different. I have 16 partners. We're all equal. We're all designers. Some are architects, some are product designers, some are interaction designers, some are graphic designers like me. We work in 5 different offices around the world. I have 7 partners in the office in New York. And so we all kind of work side by side as equals, and sometimes collaborators, sometimes independently. And so I remember I loved doing design so much that from the very beginning I worked, even when I had no design responsibility, I would, no one I knew had a birthday without me designing the invitation. No one, my wife got a beautiful anniversary card that I made by hand every year. I sort of like designed, redesigned the mailbox numbers on my mailbox of where I lived. I sort of like designed everything I got my hands on. And then eventually I started getting things put in my hands that actually were real jobs, but that took some time. It took a couple of years before that happened. Yeah, over there.
When you were in high school, did you know for a fact that you were going to be going to art, or was there something else that you were thinking of?
The question was, when I was in high school, I didn't know for sure I was going into art. Yeah, I was early on, like even as early as elementary school and certainly junior high school. I found out that people thought I was good at art. And being good at art kind of helped, got me some respect on the playground, stopped me in some cases from actually getting beat up. I remember you know, there were like, I remember some tough guy in high school whose name I don't remember anymore, but for whom I had to more or less do an enlarged copy of the Budweiser beer label so he could hang it somewhere, maybe in his basement, and drink beer in front of it or something. But I did that for free in return for not getting beat up by him. And so being good at art actually started paying off things. And so he was one of my first clients, now that I think about it. And I've had similar clients since then, actually, who beat me up, not physically, but otherwise. But even then, I sort of like knew that I wanted to go into art, and then I actually sort of started that first poster I showed, that Wait Until Dark poster. As crappy as that looks, when I remember sort of seeing that reproduced, thinking, "Wow, this is really cool. Everyone can see this. It's like on every floor of the school. It's in every stairwell, and then people will see this, and then they'll come to the play." And it was fun talking to. It was fun like being involved with the play, even though I wasn't an actor or anything, you know. And so I just thought, well, whatever job this is, I like this job. And I thought it was art, actually, but then I was lucky. There was one book in the library at Normandy High School called Your Future in Graphic Design / Commercial Art by S. Neil Fujita. And that book actually sort of explained what art directors and designers did, and I thought, this is exactly what I want to do. Then I went to the Parma Regional Library on Snow Road and Ridge, in Pearl, and I looked up graphic design in the card catalog. They had one book on graphic design called Graphic Design Manual by Armin Hoffman. I don't know if any of you guys know this book. It is the most serious, hardcore, high design, inaccessible, practically written in German book you could ever get. But I was like, wow, graphic design, I love it, you know. And so and that was all when I was a junior in high school. So when I was a senior, I did this independent study thing where I designed virtually everything that the print shop at the basement in Normandy printed that whole year. There was a lot of crappy looking stuff that I designed, but I got it all. I got a lot of things out of my system real fast. So I knew early on, actually, and this is in an era in the mid '70s when no one knew what graphic design was. It's not like today. No one knew what a typeface was. If you'd say, "What typeface is that?" no one would have any idea what you were talking about, you know. But nowadays, you know, it's like, everyone sort of, like I said earlier to the young lady I asked that question before, is like everyone sort of gets to pick typefaces. Everyone thinks about that, and I think that's a good thing, actually, you know. I think it's better that more people do it. It's like reading. It's like, you know, or writing. It's like there are writers like Stephen King or William Shakespeare, who are, you know, famous writers. But then everyone here knows how to write too. And there's a difference between the worst of us writers and William Shakespeare, but it's still the same basic idea. And I think design could be the same thing. There could be good designers who are the masters of the craft, but everyone should really think of themselves as a designer on some level, as a visual problem solver, as a creative person. So I'm in favor of that. I don't find that threatening at all. That didn't quite answer your question. I kind of went in some other direction. I apologize. Oh, good. Okay. Another question? Oh yeah. Back right there.
Is there a company or school that you have not had a chance to work with, that you would like to work for, maybe you have design ideas for?
The question is there a company that I'd like to work with that I've never worked with? Is that it? Yeah. It's not a company, but I would really like to design a hardware store. I think if you ever go, you know, if you ever go into an old hardware store, it is like so nice. You know, boxes of nails, tools, the way it looks and feels and smells is really great. And then you go into like one of those like really new kind of hardcore hardware stores where every single thing, you can buy like 3 nails and they're in this huge package and it's shrink wrapped and bubble sealed. And you know, everything is like over packaged and over everything. And I think that there's some way to do like a Starbucks or a Barnes and Noble style hardware store that would, you know, be in response, you know, that would actually kind of go to the romance of do-it-yourself stuff somehow. I would love to do that, actually. And I'm very clumsy when it comes to that sort of stuff, but I think it would be a really great problem to solve. It doesn't save the world or anything, but it would, you could do one that was very sustainable and kind of explain to people how to make their houses more environmentally sound and things. I think there's a huge potential there, actually, and now more than ever, actually, where people are fixing things in their house instead of buying new stuff, which they have to do in this economy.